Hey guys, I'm Diamond, also known as Your Coiliness, and I'm a full-time content creator, and I love talking about things as it relates to self-improvement by using mindset shifts and productivity tools, all with a stylish and soulful approach. So let's get into it. So today I want to talk about my 2022 lessons that I learned as a creative in hopes that it will inspire you guys and also just let you know some of the things that I had to learn so that you guys know what the hell is going on and just become a better creative. I've got my notes right here. Let's get into it. The first thing is your network is your net worth. In 2022, I did a lot of traveling to different creative events. I went to LA twice for some creative events with YouTube and VidCon, etc. And I also went to New York for CultureCon, and I learned so much, right? By talking to these people. I was in the room with all these really big creators. I'm talking these people have millions and millions of followers, and you know, they're talking to me and they're telling me things like, you need to go to LA, you know, because proximity is really helpful when you're around other creators. You can collaborate more and you can meet more, right? And it helps you grow. And also what I found was just even being in those spaces, it inspired me and motivated me to create more, because at home, I live in Detroit, there's not a lot of content creators, right? And so there's not that same level of people getting it, right? Getting why I always am filming content or why I live my life the way I do. Like, it's just not the same because it's just not the environment for it. When I was in LA, I was creating a lot more, and I felt really inspired. And when I came back home, I was so ready to just be better. So don't be afraid to get out there and network and go to events. And yes, you may start off as a small fish in a big pond, but as you expand, when you expand your pond, you expand as a fish, right? There's only so big that I can grow here in Detroit. And I think Detroit will probably always be at least part-time my home, but I definitely wanted to start expanding my network outside of Detroit. Which leads me to my next point. Leverage your location wherever it is that you're based. You should be at the top of the list for anything related to content creators, influencers, or whatever that you want to do in your city. When there's restaurants opening, new brands launching, events, you should be in the city's mind. The city knows you. You'd be surprised, especially in these smaller cities, smaller states, right? Like here in Michigan, Detroit. Yeah, there's gonna be openings and things like that, and they want people like me to come. Definitely leverage your location. And what I always say is, if you can make it in your hometown, you can make it anywhere. And when you've built a name for yourself in your city, and you take it out, you take it out of the state, you take it on the road, and people are like, oh yeah, I know some people in, Detroit or wherever, like, oh yeah. Like, it just gives you that respect when your hometown rocks with you. So I would definitely recommend starting smaller, starting with, going to events in your own city so you can also get more comfortable. When I started 3 years ago, I was creating content and going to events here in the city, and that's how I got comfortable with networking. I was going to influencer events here in the city, right here. And so when I went out of town, it was like, wow. What it felt like, it felt like me leveling up. Because I remember 3-4 years ago, I was going to influencer events here in Detroit. And I'm like, wow, nervous and stuff. Like, ooh, I'm nervous. I don't know anybody, da. And now here I am 3 years later going to influencer events in New York and LA. And I'm like, wow, I don't know anybody here. And just feeling that moment, full circle moment, like, wow, I'm really elevating. Leverage your location. The next thing is know your ultimate goal. Why do you want to be a content creator? And I know for me, this started off a little bit murky. I was like, okay, I like sharing my fashion and my hair, but I didn't really know what beyond that. And that made things, it worked for the time that I was in, right? This was 3 or 4 years ago when Instagram was really popping, and it was more just about aesthetics and posting beautiful photos, and you didn't always have to have as much behind it. But especially now with the way that social media is going, there has to be more there. There has to be more depth. There's something there, and you just might not know it yet, and that's okay as well. But I knew that when I started posting it, and then people were telling me like, wow, that's so cool. Like, I love that you were confident to post yourself on there. And people started to come and tell me how they were inspired by me posting my looks, and like they were getting ideas and they were learning about new places. I was like, okay, so there's something behind it. Like, but it's only, it just takes time to sometimes dig into that. But I feel like for a lot of people that are starting now or getting deeper into it now, they kind of already know what it is that they really want to get out of this. Number 4, what you have to say isn't boring or stupid. There are 4.26 billion people on social media. So you think that nobody has a similar interest, similar taste as you? It's just not true. You just haven't framed it correctly, and you just haven't found your people yet, and that's okay. Don't be afraid to lean into whatever it is that you're talking about, or whether that's a specific niche, or if you're doing a more broad approach to niches. That's another discussion for a different day. But in general, just don't feel like you have to go super general or high level because you don't want to be boring or you don't want people to not watch it. No, you want to be super niche. Like, you want to be specific. You want to lean deep into whatever it is that you want to talk about, right? Because there's accounts for everybody. There's accounts about aquariums, cars, sports, and roofing, like a bunch of things, and none of those things appeal to me. But there's accounts with hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of subscribers. Because everybody has different interests. Think about your channels as like your own show. It's your own series. Everybody's not watching Pawn Stars. Everybody's not watching, the doggy rescue shows. Everybody's not watching the Lifetime movies, right? It's to your taste. So lean into that. Don't be afraid to lean into your niche. Those accounts do the best. And I'm not saying hone into one specific topic. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I am just saying, don't be afraid to lean into your topic and really get into the weeds and the nitty gritty. Don't be high level because you want more people to look at your audience, because then you appeal to nobody because it's just too general. So get into the depths. Sink your claws into whatever it is that you want to talk about. It's not a matter of adjusting what you talk about to appeal to people. It's how you frame what you're talking about to draw in the people who would be interested. And truly, I believe that you don't really have to do much of that. I think that for the most part, you can, of course, you should always be learning on how to better articulate yourself and communicate to your audience. But I also think there's something very raw and real about just showing up as yourself, right? And being clear and concise, but whatever your own little spice is, doing that. And the last thing is adding soul to your content. This is something that I discovered at the end of the year, that I realized what my content was missing. So in doing all my traveling throughout the year, I would be meeting these people, and they would be really dope, and they would think I was really dope. And then they would see my social media, and nobody said anything, but I felt there was a little bit of a disconnect, because the way I was showing up on social media was different from the way I was showing up in person. And I feel like when you would see my social media, it was almost like corporate. It was giving HR, right? It was giving very guarded, right? But with a lot of these people in their content, I could see who they were offline and who they were online, and how it was the same person. And that's not to say that you have to share every single thing with everybody, but you could still always see that person's personality. You could see their soul in their content. You could see their soul in whatever their niche was. So let me expand on this even more. Every great story has a spiritual lesson in it. From the action to the thriller to every genre, there's some type of spiritual lesson. There's some kind of journey. There's some transformation. There's some growth. People want to see a transformation. And in that, we are seeing the journey, the mindset, the habits, the routines that this person has as it relates to whatever the story is about, as it relates to like a movie or a book, right? And the same goes for creating content. I'm going to create a separate video on this topic completely, but whatever you want your niche to be, whatever you want to show up and talk about, you need to be willing to put your soul into it. And what does the soul go through or learn. And experience is a journey, obviously. The habits, the mindsets, the routines, the thought processes behind literally everything, right? But whatever it is that you want your content, so whatever it is that you want to show up and talk about, you need to be willing to dive into the habits, the mindset, the journey, and the thought processes that you're having as it relates to that. So if you are about fitness, you need to be willing to dive into the journey, the lifestyle, the mindset, the experiences as it relates to your fitness journey. People need to see the soul in your content. When they don't see the soul, it just comes across as kind of hollow a little bit. It's like you're holding back, and they don't always, and it's just not as interesting. Could you imagine watching a movie where you didn't get to see that transformation, where you didn't get to really see that journey of what they went through, of what their mindset was, of what their lifestyle was beforehand, or what they're thinking? It wouldn't be a movie. It wouldn't be a transformation. You'd be bored. We have to make sure we're bringing our soul and the lessons and the transformations that we're going through into our content. And those, some of the best creatives on the internet, that's what they do, whatever their niche is. I'm not saying you have to do that for everything. I'm not going to do that about relationships, because I don't talk about relationships, right? If you think about a financial creator, they're going to talk about their journey and their mindset and their habits and their lifestyle as it pertains to their finances. And that also lends to their credibility. And you also get to see their transformation, because some of those people, maybe they started the page as someone that was $10,000 in debt. And now, if you've been watching since the beginning, maybe a year later, 2 years later, they're no longer in debt, and they are now have a net worth of $2,000. You've seen that journey, right? Or that journey has been documented in their transformations and their lessons. It's all there for you to see and to learn from. And that's what really adds that impact. And that is all the lessons that I've learned from 2022 as a creative. I hope these helps. Be sure to leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. If there's anything that you learned as a creative in 2022, I'd really love to talk about it. But yeah, that's it. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Bye.